Hello again, everyone. This is Nick Tramick with my partner Howard Chao for the next episode of our podcast, What's Next In? And today we're looking at the field of legal RegTech. And so RegTech, or regulatory technologies, is something that we also focus on. And today we're looking at a company called Hdata. So Howard is speaking to the founder of Hdata, and what they do is they work with the energy regulatory data market, combining compliance and business intelligence onto a single platform. So Howard, what intrigued you about this company?
Hdata was very interesting for several reasons. First of all, the founder is a very experienced regulatory operator. I believe he worked in the SEC for a while, and he's been working on this problem for a long time, which is how to integrate data systems with government agencies and how to make the communication smoother. And he's worked out a deal with the FERC, which is one federal agency, but it's just the first among what he hopes will be many. And so if he's successful, he will be able to allow lawyers and other people that interface with agencies to have much smoother communications and share data in ways that's a little bit more seamless.
Great. All right, let's get right into it. This is Howard with the founder of Hdata.
Today, I'm here with Hudson Hollister of Hdata, a startup that has some very interesting technology. And I'm going to ask Hudson to first maybe give a little background on himself, your origin story, not going too far back, not elementary school, but enough to give us a flavor, and then tell us about your company.
Howard, I'm excited to be here, and Hdata is excited to be participating in this Dune Insights interview. We are a RegTech company starting out in the energy sector, but with the intent of going across all of the different heavily regulated industries. My background is I'm a recovering lawyer and bureaucrat. In 2008, I joined the staff of the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission and I was on a task force that tried to simplify securities regulation. The task force failed, but we did realize that if regulators adopt standardized digital formats, then so much that right now is manual can be automated. Compliance can be automated. Business intelligence and insights can be automated. The analytics that regulators do to try to enforce rules can be automated. That idea, digital standardization for the information that goes back and forth between the regulated and the regulators, that idea has been at the core of everything I've done for the last 14 years and is also at the core of Hdata's RegTech platform. Great.
So before we get into the details, maybe we can set the table a little bit by first exploring two quick subjects. One is, with legal and RegTech startups, I always like to understand where's the legal side and where's the tech side of the company, right? I mean, it sounds like you come from the legal side, but it sounds like you're deep into tech as well. But I always like to understand, where's your technology coming from?
Well, our legal side is the regulatory reporting requirements that a regulator is imposing on some industry. And so in a minute, we'll start talking about the forms that energy companies have to file with federal and state regulators. That's the subject matter of what we automate. Right. The technical side, though, that's important too. The Federal Energy Regulatory Commission has decided to impose a standardized digital structure for its annual and quarterly forms. That standardized digital structure is expressed as an XBRL taxonomy. We're seeing that happen more and more. We're seeing regulators apply some kind of digital discipline to the information that they require the industries to report. Once there's a digital standard, that means that all of the automations you might want to build to digitize, to automate the interchange between regulator and regulated, all those automations can happen.
Right. So Hudson, I guess what I was really getting at too with this question was, on your team, who's the tech behind you? Have you become a technologist as well, or is there a tech mastermind on your team as well?
Early on, I was, because I could usually translate, although I have a legal and not a technical background.
Right.
About 14 months ago, we were so privileged to have Yuval Lubowicz join me as co-founder and chief technology officer. Yuval's on his 6th startup, and he's worked to transform other industries before RegTech, worked to transform other industries using the application of XML standards. Right. So he has been wrangling our RegTech platform for the energy industry ever since then.
Okay, and second sort of table setting question. So can you just give a little bit of background for those that are uninitiated non-technologists, which will be mostly the audience, about what it means to set up the information and data that's going back and forth between regulated and regulators in a format, digital format. I mean, just describe what that means a little bit more.
Yeah, for that purpose, I'm going to use a couple of screens with apologies to the folks that might be joining us audio only. I'm going to show you what the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission forms used to look like, and I'm going to show you an old picture of myself. Up until 2021, the FERC, the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, was using old-fashioned Microsoft Visual Fox Pro interfaces where every energy company in the United States that's federally regulated had to manually type all of their numbers into an old-fashioned interface. And then whenever the forms were finalized at the government agency, they were PDFs. And so in order to get relevant information out of them, you had to download the PDFs, print the PDFs, and manually hunt through for whatever number you might need. In 2015, I began advocating for the FERC to adopt a digital standardized format. I used to be the CEO of the Data Coalition, which advocated for many agencies to do that. The FERC actually did. The FERC adopted this digital structure, and that's getting to your question, Howard. The FERC adopted the XBRL format for the numbers that are contained in these annual and quarterly forms. What that means is every number, the thousands of numbers in the reports that the energy companies are obliged to file, gets some digital definitions. The structure expresses what the number is, what denomination it's in, what time period it pertains to. That means for the first time in history, every number in these forms becomes its own data field, and we can do analytics automatically.
And is it only with respect to numbers, or is it also with respect to text?
Text gets block tagged, and so we can zero down to a particular footnote or to a particular segment in the narrative disclosures. Some of the other government agencies that have adopted the same approach have chosen to get more specific with the tagging in the text, and that means the more they do, the more we can do with our analytics. But in the case of the FERC, the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, it's block tagged.
Okay, great. Thanks so much for that 101. So let's now talk about your company and your technology. So maybe you can first just tell us, what is the essence of what you've done to build a platform, and a technology platform that does something different and differentiated?
The big picture is, now that we have a digital structure, thanks to what the FERC has done, that governs all of the reports that energy companies, regulated energy companies, must file, we've been able to put all of that into a database. We've been able to become the center point between the companies on the one hand and the regulators on the other. And all of our different tools are integrated with that repository. We're able to offer compliance, that is, companies reporting things to the FERC. We're able to offer intelligence and analysis, many ways of interacting with the information and getting the understanding that you need out of it. In short, for all of those who manage and understand regulatory information, we can automate what they do.
So are you kind of a pipe between regulated and regulator in a sense?
Yes.
Okay. And so you may have certain exclusivity privileges then, is that right? Or can others do something similar to what you do? I mean, why can't somebody else create a pipe?
That's a great question. The FERC adopted an open source format, so anybody can build technology on it. That's why they did it. And that's why all the regulators should. They should stop using PDF documents and should start using structured formats for whatever they collect. We have a head start building the pipe because we knew years in advance that it was going to happen. And we've already built all of the analyses that the regulated energy industries need. We also are the only one that combines both the compliance, the reporting and the preparing of the filings on the one hand, with business intelligence, understanding and analysis on the other hand. It's hard to do that. I think somebody else could try. We already have the customer base. We already have the combination of those functions.
Okay. Do you want to just show us a couple of slides on what this looks like? I mean, I know that some of our audience is audio only, but maybe you can describe it.
Sure can. Give me a second to pull that up. First, compliance. We are able to take what used to be a manual hunt and peck process and create the same experience that that's used to high-tech cloud-based processing or analytics would be able to use. We have an ability for our energy company, regulated energy company customers to combine together and collaboratively edit the information that's in that report. We can also automatically create the report using an export from the financial system. None of this was possible until the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission imposed this new format. Explorer, we can pull up comparative finances of any regulated energy company, and we can provide the benchmarking that the entire industry is doing when they're asking the state level regulators for permission to charge higher rates, or when they're considering equity investments or mergers, or when they're trying to get their own cost under control. We can build interactive documents that allow our users to interact with the form the way that they used to, except every number is clickable. We can create interactive dashboards and graphs where the numbers change automatically as new forms come in, and the analyses do as well, so that management can be informed. Finally, our Insights tool, which we just released in July, is the first time in history that a business intelligence platform that uses regulatory information is organized not according to the structure of those old school forms, but instead built around the problem statement. We've gathered all the numbers that relate to electric utility operation and maintenance expenses, utility reliability, plant efficiency, and we've built suites of choose your own adventure dashboards that help our customers answer their questions without having to know which line item is found on which schedule of which form.
Pretty cool. So what's the scope of how much you've covered already in terms of regulatory authorities? FERC, anybody else yet?
So far, the FERC plus a little bit from the Energy Information Administration. Our core is, of course, those annual and quarterly reports that the FERC has forcibly transformed from old-fashioned PDF documents into structured digital information in the XBRL format. However, because we have that beachhead, when we raise our A, part of the A is going to be spent on building out all the other forms, even those forms and reports that have not yet been transformed into a digital format. And we'll find all the connections between them, the places where a line item from the one is related to a line item from the other. That means we'll be able to cover the waterfront of what regulated energy companies have to do federally. And then we build the states, and then we go beyond energy to other industries.
Well, so you used to work at the SEC. The SEC, of course, is highly regarded as a very advanced technology regulatory authority, and Edgar is the state of the art, right? So why is it that you haven't been able to infiltrate the SEC?
Howard, you're dangling catnip. The SEC still has yet to digitize most of its forms, and there are still 500 attorneys and accountants at the SEC Division of Corporation Finance who are manually checking the math with calculators and spreadsheets.
Right.
It's getting a little better incrementally. The SEC did some of this transformation that we are talking about. They didn't really do it right, frankly. They didn't police the digital structure or the digital quality of their filings, and so we don't have the kind of comparability or benchmarking that we should have. We certainly don't have what I just showed you. The SEC is still trying to fix that. When I was a congressional staffer 12 years ago, I wrote a bill which will force the SEC to fix that. The House finally passed that bill 3 weeks ago. So I do have hope that there are reforms that will get more digital structure at the SEC. But we're not there yet. And Hdata is going to have the opportunity to help with that once the reforms are imposed and the digital discipline finally comes into play.
Great. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about your commercial side. How much traction have you achieved yet? Can you describe that both in terms of customers and whatever financial information you are able to share?
Sure, I'll share a few basic bullets. Our platform's annual recurring revenue contracted and confirmed is just over 800,000. We have 33 enterprise customers. Now that includes electric, oil, gas, at least one regulator, and the Citizens Utility Board of Illinois. Our market is not just the regulated energy industry, it's also anybody that cares about energy finance. And so we're selling to regulators, we're selling to consulting firms, we're selling to accounting firms and consultants as well.
Great, excellent. So, who are your current investors? Can you say a little bit about that, and what are your financing plans?
We closed our $3.1 million seed round in December 2021. It was led by Hyde Park Venture Partners, and it was co-led by Firebrand Ventures. Our industry-specific investors include Alabama Power, uh, Ascent Energy Ventures, and Intellis Capital. We are aiming to raise our Series A in early to mid 2023.
Great. Excellent. Well, that's a really great summary. I'm sure there'll be lots of other questions for you and Bonnie Doon, but I think we have covered the key points so far. And thank you so much for being with us today. And look forward to seeing you in Bonnie Doon.
If there's anything I can add, it's just that we are seeing so much adoption, so much realization by regulators around the world that they've got to move away from unstructured documents, and they've got to move towards structured data. But for the most part, the transformation hasn't happened yet. The FERC is only the third agency in the United States to try this. And so I think what this means is when I came to the SEC 14 years ago, I was shocked that people were still doing manual computation. 14 years later, it's even more scandalous, but they are. The transformation even to basic automations in the regulatory sector hasn't happened yet. And because of the reforms that we're seeing in Congress and elsewhere, we're on the cusp of them.
Terrific. Thank you so much for coming out today and talking.
Thank you, Howard.
Okay, bye-bye.